What's good? It's Woog. So, in assessing the different albums that are dropping right now, there was one that just jumped out at me, and it is the return of Alvvays. A kind of indie rock, shoegaze, dream pop, bliss pop. It's a band that surprisingly, this is only their third album, the one that they're about to drop, Blue Rev. That's only their third album. It's the follow-up to Antisocialites. And while Antisocialites is a pretty good album, and it was a good sophomore album with some really nice earworms, which Alvvays is a master of creating. Just these kind of happy, but at the same time, melancholic, nostalgic. It's kind of a mix of the different variations that go into, the different variety of indie subgenres. But as good as Antisocialites was, it really had nothing on the debut album, Alvvays, the self-titled debut from 2014. And I want to focus on that one for just a moment. Now, before we get deeper into Alvvays, the album, Alvvays the band is spelled with two V's instead of a W because there was another band called Alvvays with a W at the time Alvvays or Alvvays was coming out. But Alvvays is a five-piece right now. Molly Rankin, Carrie McClellan, Alec O'Hanley, Sheridan Riley, and Abby Blackwell. Now, Molly Rankin is the lead singer of Alvvays, and she's actually the son of John Morris Rankin, who was a renowned fiddle player for the Rankin family, which is it's a Celtic folk family collective. And so that is who Molly Rankin, the lead singer of Alvvays, was born to. So this is a very interesting band, and there's certain albums, because I feel like when things are released, even if it's really good, we as a public tend to just listen to something, especially now in the streaming era, and get over it really quickly, and it's always on to the next, on to the next. But I really want us to stop and really appreciate what we got unexpectedly in 2014 in that Alvvays debut album. There are several good indie rock and more specifically dream pop, bliss pop albums, that have dropped even in the past 10 years. But when you look at that debut album from Alvvays, it almost hits like a pinnacle of how blissful those sounds can sound in that subgenre. And what I mean by that is, if you take Molly Rankin's voice alone, it almost sounds like she's singing from at the bottom of a well, and you're standing up outside of the well looking down, and you hear this voice coming up. It sounds like it's lost, or it's coming down a long corridor. So another one of my favorite dream pop bands, Beach House, their lead singer, Victoria Legrand, super enchanting voice, but for different reasons. She has different vocal qualities. She has almost a more androgynous sound where it almost sounds otherworldly. Molly Rankin, it's more of an adorable voice. If you listen to track 2 on that Alvvays debut, the song is called Archie, Marry Me. Once you get to the chorus, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It is such a sweet sounding voice, but it also kind of tugs at the heartstrings in a different way than Victoria Legrand's voice does. I think Alvvays has much more of a kind of like a jangle pop, where yes, there is a lot of reverb on the guitars like there is in Beach House, but the melodies for Alvvays, they sound a lot more playful. They're a little bit faster, and you could hear a little bit more ding, 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 ding. And they're a little bit more along the lines of what's known as twee pop. To hear more of what twee pop is about, listen to Belle and Sebastian. But Alvvays, especially in that debut, they just hit a perfect blend of dream pop, bliss pop, and so forth, where it's not only that track 2. If it was only the tracks 1 and 2 that you heard, if you were introing the album, listening to the first song called Adult Diversion, and then track 2, Archie, Marry Me, that is enough to automatically just suck you in and draw you in to the world of Alvvays. Again, it's a super colorful musical palette that they're working with, and earworms is the appropriate term because it's these little melodies that after you hear a song like Archie, Marry Me, or a couple of the other best songs from that debut, Next of Kin or Party Police, you can't get those melodies out of your head. You'll just be humming those melodies to yourself, but I have yet to hear another band that has that same vibe where you mix the music with that very unique Molly Rankin voice. Let me know if you know differently, and I'll go straight to it and listen to it immediately. Like, there are tons of dream pop bands and, bliss pop bands that I'm into, even from the 80s and 90s all the way 2000s, and obviously in the 2010s with Alvvays. Let me know if you know of another band that kind of reminds you of Alvvays a little bit. I feel like it's a very unique mix of sounds that they're working with that, again, I thought that they knocked that debut out of the park. Again, I like the follow-up, Antisocialites. It does have some highlights, but I don't feel like it's got the same magic that they developed in that debut with songs like Adult Diversion, Archie Marry Me, Next of Kin, Party Police. Especially in Party Police, there's just like a longing in her voice. Or Next of Kin, it just strikes the right balance, like reverb wise on the guitar. Like, it's not as washed out as some of the shoegaze music that you might hear, where the effect pedals with the guitar is just totally washing out almost any sense of melody, where it just sounds like one strum could lead to like 10 to 15 seconds worth of sound. No, there's a little bit more guitar play in the little riffs and guitar licks that are going on in the instrumentals. So yeah, let me know if you have given Alvvays a listen. But I'm wondering, with this third album, are they going to be able to recapture some of that magic that they had in that debut? Because again, I like the sophomore album, but it wasn't as magical for me. It didn't reel me in and keep me in the same way that, Archie Marry Me did. But I wonder where they go from here. And it's surprising that this is only their third album. But, I keep on shouting out Molly Rankin, the vocalist, but I feel like almost equal attention. Maybe not equal, because I feel like her voice is such an outlier in terms of the way her vocal tenor hits the track. But the guitarist, Alec O'Hanley, I feel needs a huge shout out as well. I mean, look, I think that all of the instrumentalists in that band, they play their significant role. Like, I remember shooting their live concert at Music Tastes Good, an outdoor music festival right here in Long Beach, California. It was funny. I shot the songs Next of Kin with the friend. We had dual cameras, and then we would go doing the editing afterwards. It's under Seen and Heard TV. If you want to take a look on YouTube, I might put the link in the description as well. But we shot Next of Kin, Party Police, and one more. Oh, we shot Dream Tonight. That was their main single off of the second album, Antisocialites. Dream Tonight, another perfect example. Very good song, but again, I just have this preference with that Alvvays self-titled debut. But yeah, it was weird because we shot those 3 songs successfully, and a couple of others that I never got around to editing and publishing. But when they got to Archie Marry Me, which is if I could have shot any song, it would have been Archie Marry Me. As much as I love Party Police and Next of Kin, even though, like, algorithm-wise, which the one that got by far the most views, I think, was Dreams Tonight. But that's because that was their lead single, their new lead single at the time, because it was around the time they dropped Antisocialites. But if I could have shot any song, it would have been Archie Marry Me. But when I heard those opening notes, I looked at my camera and I saw that the battery had just run out. So I had to quickly lose the battery, and the audio player, the zoom that I had on top of the camera, that was still rolling. So I've got audio of the whole thing, but I'm dropping the battery out of the camera, putting the replacement battery in, slapping it in. So by the time I hit play, they were like a good 30 seconds in to Archie Marry Me. And so that kind of ruined what could have been an excellent video experience. But yeah, I just really wonder whether with this Blue Rev album, if they're going to be able to recapture some of that magic that they won me over with in that debut album. But yeah, let me know what your overall thoughts are of Alvvays. And again, if you know another band that sounds a little something like Alvvays, let me know. Because I'm having trouble. If I was to, try to say, okay, Beach House, the band sounds like somebody. That one's kind of hard to pair as well. I mean, you hear certain bands that will have beach house like moments, or if you look at the Cocteau Twins and that song Cherry Colored Funk. Okay, I could see a little beach house in that dream pop classic Cherry Colored Funk, But again, with the combination of the washed out guitar, Molly Rankin's voice, and the kind of jangle, what do they call it? C83, twee pop styles of melodies in the instrumentals. It's just a very unique combination. And I'm still trying to really put into words how that comes together in the way that it does. But I just really am looking forward to hearing Blue Rev. And, even if they don't recapture the same magic, but are able to develop a totally different magic, I would be just as intrigued, because you don't want a band to get too formulaic either, right? You don't want to hear like the same album redone and re-released and then re-released, where they've got like a discography of 4 or 5 albums that more or less sound alike. So like the shoegazy, what is it, post-rock, post-punk, what would you call the band Dive? DIIV, another indie rock band that, I used to like Real Estate as well, but Dive, that album Ocean, I don't feel like they were ever able to recapture that. But, with their third album, I feel like they forged more of a darker shoegaze vibe than the more blissful, washed out guitar sounds, surf rock types of sounds that they had on that Ocean album. So again, if Alvvays is able to forge a new path, I'm all in. But yeah, let me know what you thought about that Alvvays debut. What did you think of Antisocialites? Do you like one album more than the other? And what are your expectations of Blue Rev? Or if you've heard Blue Rev, let me know what you think. In terms of the standout songs, like I've heard the teasers that they put out, and I like them. It doesn't totally tell me, well, I'm still trying to put together what direction they're headed in. So I'm just going to wait for the album before I extrapolate any larger opinions of their newest work. But yeah, let me know what your overall thoughts are of Alvvays. And if you haven't heard the band, go ahead and listen to that debut album, Alvvays. Like, again, I think that sometimes we pass over these moments in music way too quickly without stopping it and really giving it the full observation and acknowledgement that it deserves. Like, I really look at that album as being one of the seminal high points of that dream pop, bliss pop-ish subgenre within the indie realm. You know what I mean? But yeah, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.